can't remember what year it was, but New York Mayor LaGuardia actually banned pinball machines from all of New York. You could not play pinball in New York City because of this.
Yeah, it's so crazy because, I mean, I grew up playing pinball whenever I had the chance to do it because I loved pinball. I didn't get a lot of opportunities to do it because most of the time it was at an arcade or someplace you had to go to, so I didn't have ready access to it in my home. Though I do remember on a home computer having Windows XP and playing Space Cadet pinball on my Windows XP machine a lot. So that's one way I had it at home, but it was more in video game form. But but yeah, because one of the things that does go on when you're playing games and any sort of things like that is you talked about the endorphins get released and one of the things that is going on is you're getting dopamine hits. And you talk about maybe some of the darker side, and you see this going on in people who are addicted to casinos. There's nothing wrong with going to a casino and dropping some playful money, and long as it's controlled and, like you said, you're not addicted. But, you see some people and even elderly people who are just, you'll see pictures of this online. You got an elderly person sitting in front of a machine, pressing the button over and over and over again, because they're getting a dopamine hit every time they hit the button. And it's just, it's something that it's moved into the realm of unhealthy, where this is completely fine. There's nothing wrong with this, but for whatever reason, this person is not interacting with this in a healthy way. And some of the things in a casino are designed to gamify the dopamine release. And one of the things that you see with newer games as an industry as a whole, it's become more of a it's larger than movies these days with the amount of money these things rake in, and some of these larger corporations want to prey upon that. And so they've introduced concepts in some games where you don't release the game, you don't pay $60 for the game and just get the full game. You get part of the game, and then you got this loot box system where you pay $20 and you get a loot box, which is a virtual box that you open the box virtually and you randomly get an item out of it. And it may be the item you want, maybe it's not, but it's moving into the realm of sort of, gambling, sort of situation there, where if you talk about a little kid, like kid 5 years old, you got more of an adult, they can interact with these things more healthily because they know what this is, they know what's going on. But talk about a kid 5 and 6 years old maybe interacting with these things, and they're like, ooh, and it's triggering something that they're not ready, and they don't have the tools yet to understand what's going on in their brain to know when, okay, this is maybe getting a little unhealthy for me, maybe I should pause. And so that's one of the things where it's like, yeah, there can be an unhealthy relationship that can develop with some of these things, but if you have a healthy home environment where the parents are involved and helping the child to understand what's going on in this moment, and maybe saying okay, maybe some of these games that have the loot box stuff in it, maybe you're a little too young, maybe that's a little too addictive for you to handle right now. And then sometimes it just comes down to managing time. But there are ways, if you have a healthy environment and a healthy life, to interact and interface with these things that doesn't have to go into these dark places all the time. These things can have as much control over your life as you give them, but ministers like to say it's a demon or this or that. Just like our previous episode where we talked about the demonology, and it's like, no, it's a demon that's just raging control your mind and you don't have any control over it. It's like, no, you have more control than some of these ministers would like for you to think.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about it before, but it's honestly like the gun control. A vast majority of the churches in this religious system that we're talking about are pro-gun control, and you'll see them argue it's not the gun that kills people, it's the people that kill people, and right. They'll gladly do it for their weapons. But then when it comes to something for the children that can be healthy, video games actually, we'll get into it, but it can be healthy. Because they don't understand it, they just outlaw it in general, and they're robbing the children of the entertainment, which is very, very common. There are medical professions, especially if you're a surgeon, that it is recommended to play video games because it improves your hand-eye coordination, your dexterity, and it makes you there are surgeons who, the better surgeons actually play Xbox or PlayStation because their hands are so coordinated with their mind, and they can quickly, perform the surgery, get in, get out, do the job, right? But these authoritative cults, they're basically three categories of reasons why that video games are outlawed. The first one is, like we mentioned with this example, kids can't overdo it. And that is, I will agree with a minister if that's the way it's presented. It's kind of in the gray area whether or not this guy presented it that way. In a normal Christian church, the minister would say, now video games can be habit forming, not addictive, but habit forming. And your children might overdo it, and in doing so, they'll miss a vast majority of their life, and they're getting more influence from the video game than they are from you, the parents. So it might be good if you keep an eye on it and make sure they're not overdoing it. That's a normal church. In a cult church, in category number one, they would say, they're going to overdo it, they're going to become vegetables, and they'll live in their mother's basement forever. Get them out of there.
Yeah.
Then you've got the historical category of person, the people who are the ministers who are familiar with the progression of the gaming systems until they reached the electronic gaming systems. And you mentioned the casinos. Well, the early pinball machines didn't have all of these holes, and they weren't designed in the same way. They did not even have the spring, I can't remember what you call that thing, but the thing you pull back and shoot the ball.
Yeah.
What they did have was you could hit these pins and knock the pins over. It was much like bowling, and they ended up putting them in casinos, and they would have like a free game jackpot. If you got the ball in the hole, you got a free game. Well, then they gambled on, could you get the free game? And then that turned into, okay, let's turn this into actual gambling. And then that progressed into the electronic gambling machines. And I may or may not know cult elite who frequent casinos.
Ooh, that's taboo.
But these men who go into the casinos and they see all these electronic games and may or may not spend their money in them, they see this and then they go back to their churches and they say, these electronic games, they're of the devil because I just played one.
Yeah. And, it's crazy because, like I said, just about any of this stuff, you can have a healthy relationship with it it's not something that has to be the end of the world. But when you're in a controlled environment where it's all about the control of what you watch, how you spend your time, who you interact with, these things are presented as though they're demonic, and just playing the thing takes away all your control, all of your agency, and that's just not the way things are. That's just not the way things are in real life.